What a beautiful Thanksgiving week we have in the celestial skies, and I'm going to be looking at them just like I hope you are. Hello, everybody. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay star curious on Stay Curious today, as it's Monday, and we're going to be dedicating today's show to what you can see from your backyard. Where are the planets? Look at this beautiful green screen there of the planets in a beautiful type of art depiction there. Good choice there from my co-producer Marty Winkle. Hey Marty, I know you're going to be watching the moon dance this weekend, aren't you? Thanksgiving week. You can't help but see that moonshine if you look up, Marty. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
Good, good. Excited for a wonderful weekend for everybody's getting in the Thanksgiving mood. We are here at the American Space Museum, and on Stay Star Curious today, we want to tell you where are the 9 planets from your backyard. How many of them can you see? And well, let's just get into that right away. As the moon's up, I got my binoculars here. There's nothing better to. Where are the planets? We'll stay star curious here in a minute as I want to teach you how to talk like an astronomer on our Stay Curious program here, where we talk about the moon is how many days old it is. And today it is first quarter moon, and right there on the right, it is 7 days old. So new moon is 0, and full moon is 14. The 28-day lunar cycle is broken up into 4 quarters, easy to remember. First quarter, 7 days old. Full moon, 14 days old. Last quarter or third quarter, 21 days old. And then new moon is technically 0 days old. And on that new moon, by the way, it's there. It's up in your daytime sky, but it's above or below the sun and you can't see it. So the moon is 7 days old today and it looks spectacular. As you see by this chart, the sun is obviously on the right hand side where you see the new, and the full moon's on the right. And that is why they change, because as the moon orbits around the Earth at 2,000 miles an hour, it is actually going ahead of our 1,000 mile an hour rotation, and it changes in these phases. Here's the way the moon's going to look tonight, folks. And it's got a bright star right near it. I'm going to tell you what that bright star is. This is a photo I took. I love taking and drawing pictures of the moon. It changes by the hour. If you've got the patience to go out and look at the moon and then go out an hour later, if you really look at the craters and study them, you'll see that the shadows change. And it's really very fascinating. And every feature on the moon has a name on it, many of them named after the great philosophers and scientists of the past. And these dark areas are named after seas and marshes and bays that the ancients thought these were they were actually thought they were water, but they were billions of years ago lava flowing there. But they've been frozen for billions of years in the 4 billion year history of the moon, and we've given them great names. So this is, as we were talking about going to the moon with Artemis, I want you to become familiar with this. This is a place that maybe 100 years from now, people will be familiar with the straight wall. I mean, not the straight wall, the Alpine Valley cutting through. This is the northern part of that first quarter moon. And if you put your binoculars on it, you're going to see these craters close up. And with the help of maybe a moon map like this one here, you'll be able to figure out what some of these names are. It's a lot of fun, and frankly, I find it more entertaining than watching a sitcom on TV. But there's some fascinating features there. Cassini, Albigast, all kinds of names up there. Here's 3 prominent craters. Aristotle, Ptolemaeus are in the middle there. But you see how the shadows are delicate coming off those mountains, and they're laying on the floor of a crater. As you watch, that literally changes within a half an hour. You might see that whole shadow disappear as the sun comes over, or that peak in the middle of that crater Aristotle there changes. And then here's the southern hemisphere of the moon on the first quarter, like it's going to be tonight. And at the very bottom are the craters that we want to land Artemis in. One of those craters right there at the very bottom never gets sunlight. So we theorize that there's ice locked up by comets in the lunar soil. And that at the bottom there is the destination for Artemis. So you can see it tonight easily with your binoculars. We know you have binoculars to look at sporting events and birds and so forth. So get out there and put those binoculars on the moon, and you'll really be fascinated with what you see. I like sketching the moon. Not that I'm a great artist, but here's a little my impression of the Bay of Rainbows, Sinus Iridium. And yes, it does look like this. And some of those little craters there that I show shadows in them, they'll be filled with light an hour after I made this sketch. There's another mountain range, the Carpathian Mountains. A lot of these mountain ranges, like the Alpine, Carpathian, were named after mountain ranges on Earth. So once again, not a beautiful work of art, but as an impression of the moon that I made. No one owns the moon. No one owns the stars up in the sky. Make a poem, a sketch, a song, whatever you want about them. And as you see things in the moon, see the rabbit in the moon, the bison in the moon. All right. There's all kinds of creatures that were made to tell stories by the ancients, as this was their entertainment. And of course, when you see the moon like this is a 10-day-old moon. And some of you might see, like I do, the profile of a lady in the moon. Maybe you'll see something different in there. It's up to you to see what you want. And like I said, make a poem, a song, a sketch. I really love to encourage that, particularly here at our American Space Museum, where we stand strong with science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. All right, there's the moon illusion. You're going to be seeing the moon as it gets is waxing to full phase. There's a full moon rising among a beautiful palm tree. It looks gigantic. And like I've told you, you can always cover the moon up with your outstretched arm by your little finger. It's always a half a degree across. Though it looks like this weekend when it starts rising up, you'll say a basketball wouldn't cover at arm's length. Yep, your little finger will. And we've talked about that many times. And a beautiful time for y'all that are photographers to go out and find a different type of picture like I did here with power poles. So where are the planets in the sky? As you're in your backyard and it's getting dark, maybe you want to go out and get away from the family a minute, or just stretch out and get another, stretch your body out so you can go get another helping of turkey and mashed potatoes and so forth. We're standing out in your backyard, and the transition we're going through right now from the summer stars to the fall stars is fabulous because there's so many bright stars out. You look to the west where the sun set, you're going to see the Milky Way for about an hour after sunset tonight. Sunset, by the way, as I look on an app on my phone, is 5:27 p.m. here Eastern Standard Time. 5:27 p.m. Holy cow. That's having your headlights on driving home from work. It's going to get good and dark by 6:30, and astronomers love that because we can do some good stargazing till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and still get to bed at a reasonable time. Where in the summertime, it doesn't get dark till 10. So the first planet we want to talk about is Mercury, and here's a satellite photo, a mariner that went by Mercury. It's the closest to the sun, half the size of our moon, a little bit bigger than our moon, actually. Mercury is right near the sun in the evening twilight. Last week, you could see it just blazing above a little bit, but Mercury is going to not only be in the evening sky, but it pops up in the morning sky tomorrow. It's at an angle from the sun that it can be seen both in the evening and the morning sky in the twilight. So you probably won't see Mercury, but I'm telling you, some of these planets you're not going to see because you'll need the Hubble telescope to see them. They're so faint from your backyard, but nonetheless, they're there. So Mercury's the first one, very close to the sun. Venus is in the morning sky. It rises about 4 in the morning, 3:26 in fact. So my friend Marty, I know that you get up very early in the morning, and a lot of you are morning risers. You get up in the morning and have your coffee or Coke or do your calisthenics at 5, 6 in the morning. You look out to the east, the brightest star is going to be planet Venus. It does go through phases like the moon, and it's at about a half phase right now. So Venus will be in our morning sky for another 2 or 3 months, and then it'll drop down to the horizon and pop up in our evening sky, then be this fall next summer. Mars, of course, this beautiful picture of Mars, one of the newest ones taken. Mars is in the night sky, is near too close to the sun to be seen. All right. In fact, it is so close to the sun because it's on the other side of the sun from the Earth. We are opposite each other. So we're on one side of the sun, it's on the other, and it's kind of gone behind the sun, so close to it that the sun's radioactivity, radiation, and so forth blocks the signals from a half a dozen satellites and our 2 rovers on Mars. So right now, it's a blackout period of communication with Mars. I'll bet you all didn't know that happened. And what will we do about that if we have human beings on Mars and not be able to communicate with them? Just another thing that has to be figured out before we go to Mars. How we figure that out is we have a satellite that's at the Lagrange point, we call it, and be able to beam signals to it, and those signals will go behind the sun to Mars, literally. So, well, you're not going to see Mars until the morning when it pops up in the morning, and you'll see it in about a month, real good. Those of you that are out running before the sun comes up, you'll see Venus and Mars in the morning sky. And it's not very bright because it's over 200 million miles away. The next planet in line from the sun is Jupiter. And Jupiter, by golly, by Jove, actually, you cannot miss Jupiter. When it gets dark, you're going to look to the east. You might be driving home to the east and you think, wow, that's a bright airplane light there above the treetops there. No, that is the planet Jupiter, the fourth brightest object in the sky. The sun, the moon, Venus, and Jupiter are always 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Jupiter actually rises about 5:30 in the evening, right before sunset, and you just can't miss it. It's going to be up in the sky, blazing away. Here's what one of our our Bays Mountain or Brevard astronomy folks, Jeff Merrick, took of how you would see it through just a regular telescope, and those are the moons of Mars. I mean Jupiter, the moons of Jupiter, and its cloud bands across it. And now we can see Jupiter in the sky all night long, and Saturn all night long in the sky. All right, and this is a great representation of how Saturn's rings open up and close to us over a 15-year period. All these pictures come from the Hubble telescope. That's why they're so beautiful and consistent. But we're about right. The second one, the third one from the top, that's about the way it looks right now. And then next year, it's going to be barely visible, the rings, and then they're going to disappear in 2025 for about 3 months. Though they're there, not disappearing like the rings have disappeared because they've blown up or something or fallen apart. No, it's the angle that Saturn has over its 30-year orbit around the sun, and then the Earth's 1-year orbit and our angles of our axes and so forth allow these rings to open and close over a period of 15 years. So I've seen it about 3 times in my lifetime. So, but Saturn is almost directly overhead, and you can find it tonight because the moon's going to be right beside it. So you go out and look at the first quarter moon. The Saturn is that bright star right near it up there. Finally, Uranus, but this is a picture of Neptune, so don't beat me up for that. I pulled the wrong picture up there and didn't want to change it. Bill Whiting, I know you're watching today. He wants to see all these planets through his telescope at his condo. In fact, Bill, safe trip to you up back to Michigan. He's already there? All right. Well, I'm sorry for you. So count the days you can come back here to Florida now, since you're up in Michigan, Bill, or that team up north, as some of us call it. Uranus, where is Uranus in your backyard? All right. Well, Uranus is, or Uranus, either way is the correct pronunciation. Uranus is easy to spot with a finder chart. It is between Jupiter and the star cluster, the Pleiades, okay? So the Pleiades, we'll talk about that on Stay Star Curious in a couple weeks, but that's the 7 little sister star cluster. You can see it. It's to the Jupiter. You find Jupiter, you look to the lower left, that is the Pleiades. And in between there somewhere is Uranus, and you can see it with binoculars if you know where to look. Jupiter is, by the way, in the feet of Gemini the twins, okay? And then Neptune, here's a beautiful uh, photo through a telescope by my friend George Fleener in Bradenton, Florida, of Neptune. It's in Aquarius to the east of Saturn. It's just to the left of Saturn, okay? That would be to the east. So Neptune is in the sky. If you knew where to find it with binoculars, it would look just like a star. In a telescope of 10 inches or bigger, you can see the disk of Neptune. But tonight the moon is between Saturn and Neptune in Aquarius. And finally, Pluto. Pluto's also in the sky if you could see it. Of course, it's invisible. You need a big, big telescope to see it. In fact, this is how Clyde Tombaugh discovered it. See the little tiny arrow on the left? And then that is on the right is the other arrow where that faint star is actually the planet Pluto and how it moved. And in 2015, the New Horizons telescope flew by it and showed that Pluto is a very dynamic world about the size of our moon. But what we're looking at is a ocean of nitrogen frozen like slushy in that heart. And the mountains are nitrogen mountains floating on it. An incredible world Pluto is. So we know that you can't see it, but you can pretend to see it up there. As the sun is setting, Pluto would be just to the upper left in Sagittarius, and almost into the constellation Capricorn. Or there you have it. The planets that I call Pluto a planet. Of course, it's a dwarf planet officially. Comets, there's a couple comets in the sky, but you're not going to see them naked eye. There might be one in the summertime, but you can always see meteors. Looking up, you might see a meteor from the Geminid meteor shower. That's one of the most active that will be peaking in December. We also have the Aquariid meteor shower going on. And with my star chart here, I can find other things, and you get your star chart and find some deep sky wonders. There's the Andromeda Galaxy is going to be visible and some other things, but we're glad to just focus today on Stay Star Curious with where are the planets? They're always up there in the sky, but exactly where, only the stargazer here will be telling you that on Stay Star Curious. So thank you all for watching today. We got Ace Boogie Stacks is watching. All right, Ace Boogie, you rock on for your Thanksgiving holiday. Carlton's watching. CB, he enjoys taking some of the constellations and the planets with his phone. Cynthia Rossi, great to share a meal with you over the weekend. Gary Gerald's up there in Georgia. Mark Usiak in Pennsylvania. Dave Stangy's up there at that state up north. Doug Forrest is out there in Los Angeles. And Robert Law, we're glad that you're watching us in Dundee, Scotland. And Steve J., thanks for your contributions to the American Space Museum. We're going to talk about how Steve's business is helping the American Space Museum in a significant way as we talk about fundraising here at the American Space Museum. So hope that you all enjoyed a little tour around the solar system. Now you know where to find the planets in your backyard, and you know where to stay curious with me, Stargazer Mark. So Marty, thank you for a great Streamlabs job, and we're glad that everybody is tuning in to what we think is some wonderful content, usually astronomy on Mondays, Future Fridays of course, on Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're working hard to bring you conversations with movers and shakers and legends of the space program. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us. Let me get out there under the moonlight.